I am Shoshana, and as Eddie said, you're here for Win with Sellers. So I hope that you are, in the right room. Today we're going to gain clarity around strategies of working with sellers. And the one thing I would ask that's just kind of cool. I don't care if you're texting, that's not the really thing, but is if you allow yourself to turn off your distractions for just a minute so you can focus and then, check back in on your text and that. Before we launch, I wanted a couple answers really from everybody. It's like, what are you here for? What's interesting to you? What brought you into this room today at 2 o'clock?
Get more listings.
To get more listings. Love that.
To learn from you.
Thank you.
Be official in my time.
Be official in time. I love that. One more.
To get better strategies. I'm a new agent, so I'm just trying to find different strategies. I just started, I signed up for Red X, so I'm going to be starting calling expired. So I just want to get like strategies to talk to people.
Okay, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Is there anybody else? Are you less than 1 year in the biz?
Yes, I started, I passed my test on December 19th.
Whew, okay, anybody newer than December 19th? 1, 2, 3. Anybody newer than April 1st? 1. Okay. 2. Okay, fabulous. Okay, welcome new people. Feel free to ask questions and chime in. If I talk fast, I'm going to talk super fast. The last time we did this class, it was 2.5 hours. I decided to shrink it down to 1.5 because I thought 2 is so long. But there's a lot of material to cover and there's a lot more that could be covered. So that's okay. We're just going to dive right in and really get started. What's the actual benefit of having listings? Like, what's the big deal with them?
Exposure.
Exposure.
Less work.
Less work, okay. What else?
Leverage.
Leverage about what? In what way?
Workload also. It's just not, overall for me, it's just not as much work.
Not as much work. Okay.
I'm gonna disagree. It's not necessarily less work. It's a different kind of work.
Okay. Reasonable. What else? Some other reason why else is it good to have listings?
Flex over time.
Flexible? Okay. Could be.
It's a little bit more concrete too.
The probability of getting a commission is higher than with working with buyers.
I like that. Okay, you might actually get paid. The last time you walked, Eddie, you were gonna offer something?
I was gonna say it's supply and demand. I'd rather be on the supply side. And especially right now in this market with low inventory and low listings, to have the listings means everyone's fighting to sell your property as opposed to you having to fight to buy one.
If you're not following Morgan Curtis on social media, you should. She had a listing the other day, right? 16 offers, 1 house, 15 disappointed people. On the other hand, she had 16 offers on 1 house. How cool is that, right? That's just amazing. Everybody wants to be your friend. I mean, at that moment.
And the benefit that follows from having 15 offers or 16 offers on one property. Some of those may be from buyers themselves who do not have a relationship with an agent. As the listing agent, you may stand to pick up some more business on the
So are
buying
you saying
side.
that they're a lead generation tool?
Yes.
Okay, Paul just said that their lead listings are a lead generation tool.
You can schedule your make your schedule and plan your day and life better with listings.
Yes, yes, you can control your time for sure, for sure, for sure. I'll tell you a little bit about how I understood that listing, kind of the importance of listings. I had been licensed for about 2 years or 1.5 years or something. When my youngest child was born, she has Down syndrome and she needed open heart surgery when she was 10 days old. That was much more, epic really than the Down syndrome, even though the Down syndrome is pretty epic in and of itself. So, she was hospitalized then for 3 weeks. And then when she was 10 months old, she had her open heart surgery again. She was hospitalized for about 2 weeks then. And in that time, I was like, I'm sunk. I'm totally sunk. I can't, what am I gonna do? So I thought, oh my gosh, well, you know what? To the time control piece, I could set an appointment. I can certainly, maybe not just in the hospital, but go to an appointment and sit there for an hour, then come back and do the rest of it later, right? So it's a really different time control than, I know probably nobody here, myself included, has ever put a buyer actually physically in their car to drive around. But point being, when we say driving a buyer around, it is a lot less, it is definitely a lot less time consuming. And interestingly, that was actually in a down market, which was tough to sell your listings. So I, at that time, oddly felt like listings were kind of like, oh my God, everybody's unhappy with me because their houses aren't selling. But on the other hand, I was able to control the time when I had somewhere else where my focus, focus super needed to be. I say it like this. There's 3 reasons in my mind that people come to classes like this. One is you want to learn about the power of listings and how they could change your business. 2 is you're intrigued by the thought that listings could be a lead generation tool. And 3 is, sorry, we're kind of missing one of the clips, so that's kind of bugging me that it's hanging. 3 is that you're excited by the thought that purposefully organizing your systems and methods could provide you a consistent level of income. So are you a number 1? Raise your hand. Are you a number 1? You're here to learn about listings and how they can change your business? Or are you a number 2? You're intrigued by the thought that listings could be a lead generation tool? Yeah, and how about number 3? You're excited by the thought that actually getting organized can provide consistent business. Okay, great, and I heard some all 3s. I heard some all 3s, whatever your motivation for being here, I fully support you. We're here to cover it all. Jot down your questions as they come, because I know how stuff just like pops into your mind and then you kind of get it, get it answered. So I've been licensed for 17 years. I've been with Keller Williams for 11 of them. It's a bummer that I wasn't here for all 17 years, but that's okay. Things shake out the way that they shake out. Little personal background, I've been married for 37 years. Yeah, I have 6 kids. I have 7 grandkids. I have grandkids on the way, grandkid on the way so far that I know about. And you never know with all that family. And my husband and I are both from California, but we've lived here for over 20 years. So I don't consider myself a native Clevelander for sure, but on the other hand, it's kind of a long time. So, hey. So I'm going to ask you to think for just 1 second. Think to the future. Think to the future. And what would it be like in this market if you took more market share, not less? So people are driving down the street and they're like, there's that Craig guy again. Like, what would it feel like? That would feel pretty good. And that feeling is what we're here to capture today and to turn into action so that you're capturing the market share wherever you want to be, whatever price point you want to be at, whatever geography you want to be at, whatever it matters, whichever place makes sense for you, that you can be in that place to capture that market share. And I'm going to just kind of give a little aside here. I was on a forum that was specifically around YouTube, doesn't matter, but this one agent was like, it's not like I always want to sell $150,000 homes. I was like, wow, that's kind of an attitude, right? That's really kind of an attitude. I have built my entire business on selling just regular run-of-the-mill homes. It's not that I've never sold a luxury home. You can do that too. It's not that I've ever sold a $25,000 home. I'm a contract for one of those right this minute. But the point is that don't look at it and go like, oh my gosh, if I gotta be at this and above, because there's just so much business to be captured out there that no matter, again, where you want to be price point, where you want to be geographically, it can work for you and you can capture the market share that really makes a difference. I will also say that I became an investor probably about 5-6 years ago. Strongly recommend that. Became a real estate investor, and I'm an investor in this market center as well. So anyway, on that note, I would say that knowing your numbers is the single most important thing that you could do. If anybody's seen this book? Yeah, raise your hand if you've seen this. Yeah, okay, good. So mine's a little bit dog-eared, as you see. I don't think that this is like a book that you read through cover to cover for me anyway. It's not that kind of thing for me. But I use it as kind of, I would call it like a textbook. There's things that I need to know at times. And so I use the pages, that I need really. So on page 132, you just jot down 132, and we call this the MREA, right? Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So in MREA, it says, converting leads to appointments and converting appointments to listings are huge drivers of your economic success. So I'm going to show you how you can calculate that super easily here. Flip over to this page that says conversion ratios. Some of these have numbers on them. The top of this is 18. I'm going to group you up, the 3 of you here, the 3 of you here. Let's just do table by table. That kind of gives everybody a little group lean in and talk to each other. If you don't have numbers, Don't be shy. Don't worry about it. You can use mine. Talk to each other right now. How many contacts do you make a week? How many of those are actually leads? How many of those leads become appointments? And how many of those appointments actually sign a listing agreement? Talk to each other for 2 minutes.
I don't know my numbers too well, I just do what I do.
Oh, 7 days.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up for a sec. I know this is kind of interesting thing to start thinking about numbers. Interesting thing to start thinking about numbers if you haven't before. It's interesting to start thinking about numbers if you haven't before, and I'm gonna give you a little cheat sheet right here. 50%, 50%. This is how I gain my listings, okay? I have a listing goal this year of 81 listings for 2023. That's tied to my overall goal for how many houses we will sell.
You personally or your team?
Well, let's pretend it was me for 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, it's not going to be, to answer your question. If I need 81 listings, I count everything by 50%, everything. I need to go on, how many appointments do I need to go on? If it's 50%, sorry?
160.
Around 160, call it 160, call it 80 listings. Could you, in 365 days, go on 160 listing appointments? Yeah. Could you easily set enough appointments to go on 160 appointments easily? Okay, that's like hard, right? I think that's hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I actually think that's hard. So this isn't for me to stand here and go like, oh, no big deal, everybody go on 160 listing appointments. It's very challenging to find 160 listing appointments. I mean, it's just hard. That's just really, really hard. Will I list all 80 homes alone? No, I will not, for sure not. However, I do know that I'll list probably still the vast majority of them. So call it, you can call it 50. I mean, even if I list 50 homes this year and 40 of them actually sell, because there's unfortunately some percentage of them that are not saleable, or the seller has an absurd price, or something like that. Okay, anyway, we're on this 50% thing. So 50, I do everything by calculate by 50%. In order to get in 160 doors, how many appointments do I have to set?
I would say maybe twice that.
Power to the person who sets 320 listing appointments. If you set 320 listing appointments, you will be listing the entire Northeast Ohio. I mean, not kidding you. Now, these are like worst case scenario numbers. I actually don't think that the numbers really play out this way, but this is how I do it in my mind, so that I know that I'm gonna have enough appointments to go on to get the listing signed. This is pretty accurate. Unfortunately, you can probably gain 50% and do closer to 60, especially when you get into working with sphere business, because you're less in competition. But the thing about it is ultimately in the end of the day, one person, they don't move, they decide not to move. One person, flakes out, somebody else, you're in competition, the other agent gets it. One person sells by owner, you know what I'm saying? They just evaporate. It's not even that they didn't like you or something like that, or you didn't do a good job at the listing appointment. But I think there's a strong correlation to about 50% of the listing appointments you go on, you'll actually get signed listing agreements. And I think some of the people who are in this room have had, I'm sure, had the experience with going on a listing appointment, and the person said, you know what, don't worry, you can sell my house. I'm not listing anything, but I'm not signing any papers, but you can always bring me a buyer. Yeah, I saw that face, right? And you're like, oh, really, come on. And you wanna know what, it doesn't even serve them very well, because they don't get the most amount of money because their house is not exposed to lots and lots of buyers, they're only exposed to the buyers you have. So, okay, that's really what I would say. If there's a conversion number, you need to know how many people you have to talk to. Every time you talk to somebody in the next week, literally give yourself a little hashtag on a piece of paper, your phone, whatever. Just jot down how many people you talk to. Then, how many of those conversations were about real estate? Then, how many of those conversations got appointments? And how many of those appointments happened? And how many of those appointments that happened actually got signed? It's a good number. It's a little sobering. It's a little sobering. You gotta talk to a lot of people. So I heard Red X. What are you hoping to accomplish with Red X? With new people or like expireds or like
I'm looking for expired.
expires? Okay, because they're starting to kind of really come back on the market, right? Like it used to be, for a while, there were hardly really almost no expires.
Because I got it yesterday, when I looked, it was a lot of leads so far, and I was just trying to get like the training down and the dialer, you know, just.
Yeah,
trying
yeah, I know,
get
where to
the
click and yeah,
business.
yeah. Good luck with that. I'd love to hear your results. I really would. Let me ask you a quick question. What kind of emotions come up when you realize that you have to go on double the appointments? What kind of emotions come up for you when you find out that you have to go on double the appointments on the number of listings that you want?
It makes me feel like I have to work harder, and I gotta work double time.
Don't get bummed out, right? Don't get bummed out. It's just a little fear factor, right?
Excited.
It's just, it's good to know, right? It's super good to know. Okay, I know every single person here has seen this triangle who's been in a Keller Williams training room. What goes at the bottom? Thank you. What goes on the side? Uh-huh. And what goes on the other side? Great. So I don't care if you're running a real estate business or a pizza shop or, I don't know, concrete business. Doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference. Every single business needs a lead. Every single piece. You might considering buying or selling a house?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, perfect. You're my lead. But you know what I'm saying? Like literally every single person, every single type of business has to have a lead. Every single type of business has to have a listing. Now, if you're running a bowling alley, that's just somebody who walked in and swiped their credit card in order to get 3 lanes, right? If you're, whatever, but I'm saying like they're not necessarily houses, obviously, but every single person needs a listing, which is i.e. a signed piece of paper or a signed credit card statement thing, slip. That's the listing. What's leverage mean?
Resources to help you get there.
Resources, right, resources to help you get there. And there's no reason that that the bottom of this triangle, there's no reason, didn't mean to say it. There's no mistake that the bottom of this triangle is leads, because it is ultimately the thing that drives the entire ship forward, right? Is having enough people to talk to get to that point. If you need tips, I got 1,000 tips on Instagram. I'm happy to talk anytime. Also, here's my phone number. Feel free to call me. We can talk. I love, like, really, my Instagram is like where I can find my inner I Love Lucy with real estate. So it's, you can have fun and find your leads and do your work all at the same time. I really, really, really believe it. So let me ask you this. What if all your leads were super organized and you knew who to call when? Like, what would happen then?
With
I heard a little laugh.
save time to get more done, get more appointments faster.
That's right. Be like, same time, use mine. Yeah. So that's crucial to organize your leads. Is everybody here in command? Or something like command? Okay, great. Literally, if I talk to somebody, I do not stop before I put their number and name in my system. It is just so crucial. You cannot remember everybody. You just cannot. And you look through and you're like, oh my gosh, who was that again? And then, oh, it's okay. You wrote them down. You wrote down what they had going for them or what they were trying to do or accomplish or whatever, and you can remember it. You have to allow the technology to do the job. And even people who say to me, I don't do technology, I don't do computers, I think you and I know somebody like Kyle, and I know somebody in common. Who's like, I don't work in systems. Okay, guess what? You have to have some amount of making yourself do it. And don't tell yourself, oh, I'm not good at that part of it. That's fake. Because every single person has a phone in this room. And if you're on an iPhone, I don't know how you do it on an Android, but pick up your phone for 1 second, look at your contacts. Go down to the bottom on the ABC thing, it shows you how many you have. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the Z's, it should show you a total number. How many contacts you have, or at least it used to. Let's see. Do we have that anymore? Is that thing, is that feature?
It's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. Yeah. How many you got? 1,300, good, perfect. Let's say he talked to 1,300 people. Let's say, I know some of them are pizza shops or whatever, but you talked to 1,300 people and a quarter of those people wanted to do business. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of people. That's a lot of people. It is your job to fill your phone up with contacts and then to get them into a system that really, really, really works for you. So on that topic, I thought we had with us are my special, like this, hot nurture watch, but we do. Okay, so let's do this. Pop the page over, please, to where it says seller info sheet. This is everybody know LP Mama? Location, price, agent, mortgage, appointment. Okay, so this is just like talking to a buyer, only in reverse. So when you talk to a seller, you're literally just having that conversation in reverse. You know, when do you need to be there? How did you hear about me? Who are you? How can I help you? What kind of thing? I personally, even though of course I use a lot of computer systems, I personally find it easier just to jot it down and just write it out, you know, get it in there. How long have you owned your homes? You carry a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can just start at the top and work your way down. 110 copies of these or however many you need, you know, until it's, till you've got them and you talk to the people and capture and connect and ultimately set the appointment, because you got to capture the lead information. You got to connect by having the normal conversation where you ask them some normal questions, and then you got to actually get inside their house. Right? Okay, so let's talk about this. While we're on this topic, I want to talk about your value proposition and what you bring to the table. Because there is something that everybody brings to the table and they're different. And I actually asked Art for permission to say this. So I'm not divulging any deep secrets here, which is that, you know what? Every single one of us in this room is so unique and so different. And I feel like Art, you are such a successful listing agent. And interestingly, you and I have hugely different personality styles. And I'm also a really successful listing agent. And I think it's just so cool that, like, it doesn't matter what your, like, quote unquote personality style is, you can be successful at being a listing agent just by learning the steps and doing them.
And being yourself. Be
Yes.
yourself, whatever style suits you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because ultimately people don't want to work with people who are fake anyway, right? They really don't. Okay, flip the paper over one more time, please, where it says value proposition. What is a value proposition? Anybody ever heard that phrase before? Maybe, okay, this is where you're like, what's in it for them? I know what's in a listing for me, a new lead and a paycheck. And exposure. Sorry?
That's honest.
That's what's in it for me. They don't care about that. The seller does not care, nor should they. They don't care whether I get paid. They don't care if I get exposure, and they don't care if I find a buyer out of their business. But what's in it for them is they get the most money in the shortest amount of time, if that's what they're looking for. And they get somebody who works with them in a really super straight way. So I know that when I bring, what I bring to the table for them is experience. I know that I bring honesty in pricing and explaining the process to them, et cetera. Because there's more, I'm sure, for everybody. But you want to think about for 1 second, what do you have in you that brings value to a seller's life? Just like any little thing. So here's what we're gonna do. Everybody stand up, 1 second. Okay, Okay, I'll start with Greg, because his experience also. Tell us one thing that you bring to the table. Any old thing.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. What do you bring to the table?
Skill at setting realistic expectations.
Nice.
Communication.
Communication.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, I like that.
Being on the seller side about 20 times.
Okay, love that.
I'd say
No, I was gonna say in classes, what do you bring to the table?
sense of humor.
Sense of humor, I love that. Okay, great.
For me, personality.
Nice.
Nice. I would say network.
Okay, fabulous.
Social media marketing.
Social media, fabulous.
Honesty.
Okay, love that.
Communication. Resource.
Resources, nice.
Customer service.
Okay, great. How about you? What do you bring to the table?
I would say my ability to connect with people in a short amount of time.
Okay, so super easy to just connect right away.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
3D virtual tours.
Nice, okay.
Just general knowledge of the area.
Yes, so I love that. Geographic knowledge, huge. Loyalty.
I did keep the customer abreast of what's going on.
Okay, so like knowledge for the customer.
Experience.
Okay, great,
Listening to them.
fabulous.
Staging consultation.
Staging consultations, nice. Honesty. Afifa, what are you gonna bring to the table?
Access to my time.
Love it.
Communication.
Okay,
Out of box thinker.
nice. All right, have a seat. So it's really not fair because the second side of the room got to think while everybody on this side of the room was like, oh. But, okay, write down what you said. Write down what you said. Don't forget. Don't forget it. Here's pens right here. Write down your line, the thing that you bring to the table. It'll just be one thing. When you come to the appointment with this piece of knowledge that what you're bringing to the table, it's so powerful, and all it's up to you now is to convey that. How are you gonna convey that you're honest? How are you gonna convey that you're a communicator? How are you gonna convey that you're great at social media? You have to show it. One little thing, whoever said honesty, by the way, it is a trigger if you say, honestly, da 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 da, because it makes it sound like everything else you just said was not honest. So just remember that, just, you are honest. I hope you, of course, I hope you should all be honest, but if that's the thing that you bring to the table is that huge sense of honesty, try not to say it right away. A funny little thing, most of you know I'm in business with my son, and he always used to say in appointments, well, it's not like I'm a used car salesman. Well, what part do you think that the consumer heard? Used car salesman. They didn't even listen to the beginning of the sentence. Or if you it's like every bit in a park with the kid and you go, don't fall, then they fall. They were not listening when you said don't. So, it's just the craziest thing. So be careful what you preempt each sentence with. And you can call me if I'm preempting things like that too. So I have a few checklists in here. Flip the page, you'll see these are not necessarily perfect. This is a listing appointment action steps that we use. And what I would tell you, there's a book called the Checklist Manifesto. You don't need to read it. I'll tell you the whole book right here in one sentence. You're welcome to read it. The Checklist Manifesto explains how in hospitals patients were dying. And when doctors realized that they needed checklists and they had to go down the list, the survival rates went way, way, way up. So I took that approach for our business. I made checklists, and I literally go down the checklist as experienced as I am, because I will tell you, even today, I get to many, many listings and I've forgotten the sign. And it's so annoying. Like everybody on my team laughs at me. They're like, it's on the checklist. Did you not bring the sign with you? Okay. So that's, now I finally got around to hiring a teenager to go take the signs for me. So I don't even have to do it, but okay. Just saying, go down a checklist. Make yourself a checklist of what you do, because you do the same thing every single time to get ready to go to the appointment. Then you can do the handy dandy notebook trick that I do, where I write things down and then I lose the notes. You could do that. I don't recommend that so well. So I started bringing a home fact sheet so that I would remember what I was looking for. And I know whoever's been in a listing appointment, when the seller's showing you the closet, you're like, okay, I think I knew that. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I knew that. On the other hand, by the time you get back to the office, you forgot whether it was a hanging closet or a closet with shelves, you just forgot. So it's really nice to write down things. And so many good questions, like, are the appliances staying? I've had many, many deals that were, at the end, everybody furious over the appliances. Crazy but true. Square footage. Well, a lot of sellers don't, my house is not that small. Like, okay. I don't know. Funny thing, I didn't measure it, but you didn't measure it either. Funny thing, the county thought it was this, so that's kind of what we're using, unless we're putting in 0. A lot of just interesting things. And then right here, I know this is just a lot of lines, where I've written property description, but it is easier to have a place to write things down just that come up to you. Showing instructions. Do they want to be notified? Do they have dogs? Do they have, whatever. Kids, can they not have showings because it's work from home? I don't know, whatever, there's always 1,000 tenants. Who knows, a million different situations. You want to know how a seller wants the house shown. And then our most fun sheet of all, our price adjustments. Who here has ever taken an overpriced listing? Don't be shy, I'm the queen of them. So yeah, pretty much all, every single person. Has anybody ever had to get a price reduction, or were they all, yes, you did? Was it hard?
Yes.
What did you do to obtain the price reduction?
I had to basically have another conversation with them about how it was going, and you have to get a signed
Something,
form, something.
or an email even.
Paper, yeah,
Right.
whatever, with them saying it's okay to change the price.
Was it, did you start out explaining to them that it was overpriced at the beginning?
Mhm.
Yeah,
But it was still not a fun, it's still not a fun conversation.
it is not, it's really not. So here, I will tell you, I have never been successful in all these years, in getting my price reductions up front. But you might be successful, and if you are, circle back to me, I'd love to hear how you did it. You say to them, look, you're listing this house at 300. We both know that the real price is 250. So let's get it written down here. Every 21 days, we're going to have a price reduction until we hit the number that it needs to be at. You can get those signed in advance. Total pro tip. I'm telling you, it's really, it could be really, really, really very good. So the other thing about kind of what I call this is like the pre-listing, and while you're in the appointment, some people send packets in advance. Some people bring a gift. I don't personally bring any gifts. I don't know, like a little mug or a candle or, something branded, something not branded. I don't know. I just feel like I don't need to, when last time you went to the doctor, they didn't hand you a candle. I don't know, but you can, and no shame in bringing gifts if you like to bring gifts to listing appointments. I have done both the send things in advance, and I have done the not send things in advance. I'm not sending anything in advance these days. But bottom line, I see the thing I wanted to say.
Any particular
Okay, great.
reason you don't send any-
Sorry, say again?
Any particular reason you don't send a pre-listing package?
I'll show you. This is printed in the back, so we're gonna go like this.
Hello,
Hi, how are you? I'm Shoshana. Nice to meet you.
correct.
Hey, so before we tour your house, do you want to sit down and talk for a few minutes?
Okay.
Okay, great. So I'm really consider that the boss move, to walk in and sit down before you tour the house. My son thinks I'm too aggressive on that one, so I'm just letting you know. Some people like to tour first. The only challenge when you tour first, to me, is I'm telling you, a lot of stuck in the closet issues. And a lot of you'll see, if you go back and look at House Hunters, Kobe was on House Hunters, they were literally all stuck in the bathroom together with the camera. It was like they were all stuck, and then they were all somehow you get stuck up in a bedroom, and they're like, okay, that's the whole house. I'm like, can we get out the bedroom? I'm like, go sit down. So when I walk in a house, I walk in, introduce myself. I actually skipped a step. I always ask if I should take my shoes off. A always, 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 I think it's really respectful in other people's homes. Some people don't like your shoes off, but you do whatever, you know, whatever they say. Then I make a beeline for a table. I'm looking for a table anywhere as I'm introducing myself. I have done many listing appointments on couches where they're like seated on the couch and I'm on the little hassock thing. You know what I mean? Like this is not good. That's not a good, that's not a business. That's not how you can command the room and show them all the values that you said that you would bring to the table. What I think you can bring to the table is sitting down and having a business-like conversation. That's how I like to handle it. Again, there's nothing wrong with touring first. If you tour first, that's also fine. And some people need to tour in order to get comfortable with you. Meanwhile, the reason I don't send is I have my entire listing presentation is on this. And it's printed in the back there just for upgrade. And I'll show you exactly how I use it. And I developed it because I always got the exact same questions. The exact same questions. And I'm also a minimalist. I usually always would show up with a pen and a piece of paper. And that was it. But then I noticed that kind of annoyed people because they wanted more. They were like, well, what's your presentation? And I was like, oh, wow, is that type of presentation? Or sometimes you would go and you'd see like, you know, the green and gold, like other team materials in a house. So I'm like, oh, theirs looks really official. And mine is not like that official. So I wanted to look more official. There is in command, there's free listing presentation. There's listing presentations to be purchased on Etsy for not much money. There's listing presentations in, oh my gosh, what's the other thing I was just about to say, command, okay, Etsy, and oh, and Pinterest has a million ideas of listing presentations too. Canva, I mean, they're free. You just put your logo in there and call it a day. But I like something super short and to the point. What I neglected to bring with me today was my green Sharpie. I have a box of green Sharpies. I write on this with a green Sharpie because green is go, right? Green is money, green is go, green is go forward. And so I'm always ready to go. So we sit down and I say, great, you know what? Before we talk about anything, is it okay if we talk about money? I do a lot of permission asking. May I take off my shoes? Should I take off my shoes? May I sit here? I don't want to sit like the dad's seat or something weird, you know, some special seat that they're saving or whatever. May I sit here? May I this? May I that? I try to be really just like respectful in their space. And may we talk about money? Money is very hard for most people. Almost nobody talks about money in any context of life other than like fighting about it with your spouse or something. It's like not fun. So then they're like, oh, you know, so I'll sit down, I bring the comparables and I say, you know, I brought you some comparables and yes, I wasted 1,000 trees on this, which is really a bummer. I print out the seller, listing full with photos. And there's a reason for that. I want them to see the commission and I want them to see how long it has been on the market. So listing, so it's the seller full report with photos, so, or listing full. So it goes like this, each one's gonna be like 3 pages and you really count. I don't know how to save paper with this, I just think it's the easiest. And I say, this house on 123 Main Street, that sold at 123 in 3 days. They go through the pictures. And while they're doing that, I'm bringing up the next one. And I'm saying, and this one sold at 456 Banana Street, and that sold in 7 days for this price. And I'm going through them really pretty rapidly, and they're only glancing at the printout pictures. I mean, you could swipe if your iPad app friendly. If you're listing with somebody older, not to generalize, but I just find that paper works for every generation and screens only works for a certain generation. So you just gotta be a little sensitive of why I bring paper. I just think it works in this context. I think the paper really, really works. And they're flipping through and they're like, oh my gosh, that one's got really nice paint. And I'm like, ooh, because their paint is, you know, crummy or whatever. So they're looking through and then I turn to them and I know in today's market, it's hard to have enough comparables, but I say, hey, in your heart of hearts, where is this house gonna sell? Just like that, in your nice voice. you're not selling them anything. You haven't sold your services yet. You haven't toured the home yet, but in your heart of hearts, what do you think this house will sell? And they've just looked at the numbers and they're gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you the price of the house. And it's pretty great. With your green marker, with my green marker, I write down the highest comparable, I write down the lowest comparable, and then I write down really pretty much where we think the house is gonna sell. Now, that may not be where I get them to agree to list it. Those could be different things. But I do, that's just how I handle that. This is being reprinted. Luckily, I'm down to the last 10 of them because I did make a mistake. I didn't put a place for myself to put the address. So if you're using something printed out, give yourself a spot to write the address. Because I was annoyed every time I was like, oh, shoot, what house was I just at? I don't even know which one, I may have 3 of these in my bag.
So you're talking about the money before you've seen the house?
Yes, I am.
So suppose the house doesn't match what you initially thought, because we think the house is gonna think of
Yeah, I
price a
understand.
certain amount.
Well, they may be saying, we're talking, I mean, you're right, it's a little less straight than that. You're right, because there may be saying like, oh, well, it would sell at 250 except for that.
But I'm saying you haven't seen the house, when I went to list it, I thought the house was gonna sell for 350, I got there, like, no, they're gonna get 350.
Right, or because you haven't seen it, yeah.
The condition of the house.
Right, so you could play with that. You can, if in that conversation, just be a little, I mean, I'm glancing around, I don't know, I guess I'm pretty much I'm winging it at that point, that's true. Because I haven't seen it. Then I'm continuing to talk about money down here and I'm showing them, you can bring printouts from the title company, from the MLS. There's different ways to find the seller net number, but I'm gonna walk them through how they get to the seller net. And I did not write down the commission amount here, it just says minus commission. So it's their total selling price, minus the mortgage, minus their property taxes, minus the closing costs, and minus commission, and that's what they'll have left in pocket. Yes.
Now, when you take this on your appointment, you fill this out while you're there.
I fill out while they're talking to them, or we're talking, telling you green Sharpie on this thing. Then I take a picture of it, which is why I need the address. I take a picture of it and I've got the picture and they're keeping this.
Okay. So you have the printouts from the title company and then you're basically showing
Them
on the
how it
sheet.
works, yeah. The thing about it is, here's the thing, if you tour the house first, I like Art's point, you can get better on the pricing. But the other thing is there may be other questions that your seller has that actually you didn't start with money. For instance, how much do you know about the selling process? Well, that's on the back. Well, they're like, how do I know whether you're any good at this? Well, I got my social proof here. If you've never sold a house before, don't stress out, you've got the whole brokerage. You can use the brokerage numbers, there's huge numbers there. Well, my house is such a mess. Okay, no worries. I've got the staging list right up here. Super basic staging list, right? The number one question every seller asks, Shoshana, what are you gonna do to market my home? And I wanna roll my eyes, but it's not nice. It's not nice. So I see them, I always use professional photography. You're on all the social platforms. Have you checked us out on YouTube or Instagram lately? Just ask them and they're like, we're on 85 search sites. Every single person here, by the way, is on 85 search sites. That's not unique to me, but just the way it is. So this is how I'm using this. At some point in the conversation though, of course, I'm gonna have to say, would you like to show me your home? So it's not all hard hitting. It just depends. And sometimes, if I walk in and I sense, like I say, I sense that the person needs to show me their home first, we'll do that first. There's neither one is right. You kind of gotta just feel it. Yeah, thank you. You gotta feel the situation because, right, it doesn't feel anything in life. You just gotta feel it. Tell me what questions you have in regards to actually being there with a list.
How hard is it to become a listing agent as a new agent? Is there some rule where you should start up? Because I kind of.
Yeah, here's the rule. Here's the rule.
As a buyer first.
Here's the rule. Okay. List as many houses as you can and find somebody else to show your buyers around. I'm only half kidding because look, could you walk in and list a house today?
Could I do that today?
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, I guess I could.
Pretty
I
much.
wouldn't be very confident yet, but
Okay. But why do you think that you're better with buyers? Would you think that you're better with buyers?
Well, I don't necessarily think I would be better with buyers. I just feel that I just kind of always heard that people start off as a buyer agent first. Maybe because, not necessarily because it's easier, it's just different. Like you said, I don't think that it's easier because I've been a buyer and a seller. But I don't know, I just feel like maybe they trust you more as a buyer agent than a listing agent.
So maybe it feels like because the front end, I'm just unpacking this a little bit, but the front end of working with buyers is so like fuzzy. Cause it's, oh my God, this one's so cute. You know what I mean? Like it's like a little more emotional side, and working with sellers is really not. I'm not saying I never tap into somebody's emotions. I've been in, I mean, gosh, guys, I've been in appointments with elderly people that couldn't afford to sell because they had way over mortgaged, and I was heartbroken. I mean, heartbroken for them, absolutely. And I had no way to even help, you know. I've been in things where I really they needed a social worker, not a real estate agent. I've been, you know, unhappy situations, people getting divorced, you know, stuff like that. I was in one appointment, to this day, I am embarrassed that I didn't stand up and walk out. I was in an appointment where somebody was abusive to their child while I was there, and I didn't just leave. I don't know what's wrong with me. And then I didn't even get the listing. And so that's always like hurt me, you know, my heart. So you're gonna be in a lot of situations. So the buyer, you know, the hardest part is unlocking the door, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't pivot from that door unlock and sit and tell people that it's straight, this is how we do it. You know, it's like your opportunity to shine in that aspect. I also think, you know, even though I don't know how many people here watch HGTV or don't or whatever, but I think it's all influenced what we think about how, don't you? How you think about how this works. Because everybody's seen how it works with buyers.
I don't know, I just can't, I think there's very little that's real about reality TV.
Well, that's for sure true.
So they're doing that to sell advertising.
Okay, but people watch it and then they think it's for real.
I
But
think,
that's why I come back to, I look at my value proposition. I'm here to talk with you so we can establish realistic expectations.
Right.
I think we fall in a pattern of working with buyers because it's just easier to do it like that. It's just easiest to work with buyers.
Yeah.
And like buyers come easily. You know, you have to pursue sellers. You know,
Right.
it's like a job. You know, do you get the job that just comes easily, or do you go for what you want? You know, with the listings, you have to go for a listing, which is structured a higher commission generally.
Yes.
But buyers, I mean, you can talk to somebody in the store and, oh, yeah.
Oh, I was looking for a house, right?
Buyers come easily.
Right.
And I think there's like a misconception that, like, as you were saying, like, people think because you're a new agent, like you're by default a buyer's agent. But you could start off going right into listing and still be a new agent.
Oh, I like that. That's really good.
That's kind of what I really want to do at this stage in my life. I don't really want to be working and running all around town looking for homes. I like something more structured. I
Right.
just know how I am as a person. I like something more.
Oh, you
organized,
happen to be in
more
anyway.
organized, more structured type of person, and that listing kind of falls under my personality.
Do it. Do it.
Are you trying to get signed listing agreements before touring the house at all, or are you make
I
sure?
have not gone that far.
Okay.
Greg's pushing it to a whole other level
I don't
here.
know. I'm-
He's like, how does this work? Do you get anything to sign? Oh, no, don't they sign before I even walk in the door? I'm just
Wow.
joking.
Tell us how to do that.
Just joking, just teasing. That'd be so boss. I'm gonna work on that. Sometimes I don't even get the listing appointment signed in the first thing.
Yeah, because I was just thinking you're talking numbers with them and stuff and.
Sometimes I don't get the listing signed until the next day
I was
or.
gonna say, bringing that sign is pretty presumptuous.
Yeah, right.
You don't get the listing part, the listing.
No, I know, no, I say sometimes I don't, and Kobe will kill me for, like, I walk out of an appointment, he's like, did you get it signed? I said, no. See, Mom, did you ask? You know, it's like, I can't believe, but, you know, but again, on that trust building piece, but to make your time the most efficient, time was a big generator of interest in this room. To make your listing appointments the most efficient, you can cut it down to a certain time frame, and get them signed in a certain, in that initial appointment. If you're going to a huge house, you know, I mean, sometimes a huge house is gonna just take a hot minute to tour, can't do anything about that. But you give yourself an hour for a listing appointment, you should be able to get in the house, a normal little regular house here. You should be able to get into a house, sit down and talk to them for 10-15 minutes, go tour the house for another 10-15 minutes, answer all the questions and get the paperwork signed. And say, it's been so nice to talk to you, I will be back Tuesday with the photographer or whatever. And you don't even have to go with the photographer if you don't want, but usually I do, if I can. And if I'm available.
You say within an hour's time?
Do you do your appointments in an hour?
I give it about an hour,
Hour and a half,
You know, cause you never know, if they wanna be chatty, I'm not gonna cut
Yeah.
them off.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you said, you gotta fill it out.
right. I mean, you know, the minute you're drinking tea with them and stuff, you're son, like you're trying to kind of keep things rolling along. But everybody knows about, well, let's talk about buyers for just 1 second, if we could, please. When you walk into a house, how do you know when the buyer's gonna buy? Like, what are some of the signs?
You listen to them.
Okay,
And I was gonna say, I find when I do that, I fall back and I watch how they're looking. I follow them and I try to read their expressions. If it's a couple, the most helpful thing is to listen to the couple speaking to each other. And if you are listening to what they're saying to each other, that'll help you know that this is a property they're gonna give
they're
consideration
gonna actually
to.
look at, okay.
When they start talking about what color paint they're putting on the
Paints,
wall,
okay,
or what
more
furniture
is
you know it's done.
huge,
You
right?
know you're writing it off.
So right there is just a signpost. That's exactly it. And there's emotional signposts for so many things in life. And when you start paying attention to the signposts, so it's the same thing with the listing. The person that will sit down and just talk to you, that's a signpost that, oh, they're willing to talk business. That's cool. And the person, again, that needs the other thing, I'm still gonna walk around and look at the house. But there's just signposts to when they're starting to ask questions. Well, do I have to disclose that mold in the basement, you know, like that? Oh, I'm like, get out the pen, you know, let's start signing stuff. Pro tip, I showed up to an appointment the other day. There was one pen, it was mine. I'd forgotten to bring extra pens and they didn't have any pens. So the whole thing took like triple time because me, husband, wife, me, husband, wife, me. So totally bring some extra pens with you. It always never, or, you know, if your hotspot isn't working, if your hotspot is working, you can sign it electronically. You don't have to sign, you don't have to sign on paper at all if you don't want. Back up 1 second, because there's a whole million steps thing in here, which I want to show you. This is Keller Williams materials, not the Shoshana materials. I want you to go to the page that says confirm appointments. It's back a few pages. I want to just throw out a couple of components. What does number 1 say on the top of 60?
Confirm the appointment.
Confirm the appointment.
Okay.
It looks like this. It says confirm the appointment at the top and it says page 60. Guys, I have literally driven to Akron for an unconfirmed appointment and had nobody be there.
Oh, God.
I know. And then I was like, what am I doing? Well, that's a nice drive, you know, like that. Don't do it to you. I know. Don't do it to yourself. Confirm the appointment. And I always feel like, you know, flip that script on yourself. When your doctor's office calls you and they say, oh, confirming that your appointment is Tuesday at 11, you need to be there at whatever, you know, 10:45 or whatever. You were not upset or affronted that they called you. You're like, oh, good one, it reminded me I had an appointment. Confirm your appointment. If you cannot get a confirmation, don't show up. Just don't show up. No, okay, good. It is such a pain. Such a pain. Now, this is, I think, an interesting thing. If you flip this page, you'll see that the next step says enter and tour. So again, that's the other way to do it. Don't show up late. Pro tip. I used to be late. Kobe was like, Mom, this is not a good look. Okay, he was like 19. I was however old I was. A little bit younger. He was 19 and he was like, Mom, it's not really, that's weird. You show up late. What are you doing? I was like, oh, that really is not a good look. So now I'm not only on time. If I'm gonna be even 5 minutes late, I just hold word for people. just let them know, hey, I'm running a few minutes behind, no big deal. But it looks so professional. People are shocked when real estate agents are on time. They really are. We don't have a great reputation. Yeah.
Were you going late on purpose?
No,
Okay.
no, no. Now when my husband's late, I'm like, we were all waiting for you. No, just joking. But it's just not good. I don't know. It's not a good look. And then there's some scripts here, things you could say at the door. You know, this walkthrough checklist, like I said, I have a home checklist in the packet. Conversations, prioritizing needs, you know, all the way along, you're collecting information, right? Well, you said that you wanted to be there by the end of the summer. What does that do for you? Like, how does that work? Why does it matter? You know, you're unearthing information as you go, which is going to inform you, you know, how you handle it. And the funny thing is, literally the number of people who tell you, I don't have to sell. I don't have to sell. Like, you know, I really don't have to sell. And I'm like, why am I here? You clearly wanted to sell your house at some level. Otherwise, I would not be standing in this house. So I let that kind of filter in and out. I don't fight them. I just let that go. And this is also a personality style thing. I do tend to fight back. I don't mean to. I keep trying to get over it. So whatever you recognize about yourself, recognize it, and that might not be good in an appointment, and try to work around it, right? Like if you're passive, think of a way to kind of put yourself forward. If you're a fighter, try to take a deep breath and relax the voice before you speak back. If you're fast, try to chill a little bit so that they can, you know, absorb the information. Whatever it is, you're really trying to be, you know, adapt yourself, mirror and match to them, right? So that it's comfortable for them. So this is a 3 questions deep page, prioritizing needs. And then this is what we were talking about a minute ago, page where it says, page 66, number 6, check for commitment. These are the signposts that we were talking about. What would be a negative sign in a listing appointment? Somebody's like, I don't know if I'm gonna list with this girl or guy, person.
If they're not attentive, if like, especially if it's a couple and one's wanders and, you know, there might be like dynamics there you know about, like the wife might really want to sell, but the husband doesn't, or vice versa.
What have you done in that situation?
You just kind of have to read the signs and walk gently, you know?
And what about when you're in an appointment and the other person is like kind of like this? Are you thinking that they're like about to list, not about to list? Like,
They're not engaged.
Engaged.
Right.
right?
They gotta be there with you.
Yeah, it's pretty
Give you
big,
a fighting chance at least, you know?
right? One of the interesting things, especially for the people who've been licensed just since April or lower, in 2 minutes, you will have sold and bought more real estate with people than most people will in their entire lives. So while you might feel kind of like a little bit inexperienced, most people only buy or sell a couple of times ever. And you will know more than most people in just like in a heartbeat. And it's so interesting to me because like even my mom, she's in her 80s. I'm going this week to San Diego to help her think about moving out of her condo. She says she's not ready. I think she is ready for the record. And you know, she doesn't know that much about selling a house, even though my parents were always homeowners and they were bought and sold lots of houses in a way. But she's like, well, her friends are real estate agents. Do you think, should I be calling Jenny? I'm like, she goes, because you know, this other Remax agent called me. I'm like, yeah, you should be calling Jenny. She's your friend and your agent for years. You know, they just don't know. People don't know. They don't know. They don't know. So anyway, so negative signs would be people unengaged with you. What else is a negative sign while you're in an appointment? It's just like,
Say it. They'll like, ugh.
sorry.
They'll say it. They'll be like, ugh, I hate this house.
But I'm thinking for a seller, think for a seller for a second.
Oh, you're right.
For a seller, what would be a negative sign? You're like, oh, I'm not gonna get this.
A negative, and I try to read it instead of this a negative, is a cue to how do I turn this into a positive? When I start getting a lot of resistance with listing price and commission.
Okay, good. We'll talk commission objections. Let's hold that. I love that one. I don't love it, but it's reality.
If they're constantly bringing up another agent or someone.
Yes.
I was gonna say, if they are saying they're interviewing other agents at that time.
Do you believe them, first of all?
No.
I don't either. I feel like that's fake. I mean, I'm not saying it is totally fake, because sometimes there are people who really do it. Sometimes there are people who really do it. So one little pro tip, you've got your extra pens and you've got your property disclosures printed out. If you can just get them signing stuff, just getting writing, I think it really helps. Alternately, Sammy, who's a girl on our team, she always gets the listing agreement signed and she leaves them that for homework. She says, I'm gonna leave you to get out the door faster. She hands up the disclosures. I'm gonna leave you with these are your homework. I'll pick them up on listing, picture day. And she comes back and picks up the list, picks up the property disclosures. So that's the other kind of way that can go.
So if she leaves with the listing agreement signed and leaves the.
The residential property disclosure.
She leaves them as, and
let
levies payment as the homework. Yeah, she leaves that as the homework. Okay, now we're gonna do the all-time fun part of commissions. What do we charge for commission? Any reason we don't charge 10%? No, okay, just saying, I don't, but I'm just asking, if the seller can net the amount of money they want to net out of the sale, is there any reason that you can't get paid? Right. It shouldn't matter to a seller whether you make $100,000 or $10,000, in my opinion. But most sellers do definitely think it matters, don't they?
Yeah.
Maria, I don't want to pay some percent. Would you give me a commission reduction?
Certainly, but do you want a reduction in my services?
Okay, very nice. Jade, I don't want to pay 6% for commission. Would you give me a price reduction on that? No.
Well,
Okay,
we can,
great.
let's talk about it. We can talk about it.
Okay, so her answer is no. Art, I never pay full commission for anything I've sold before. Would you give me a commission reduction on that?
I would say what you just said before, which is, the main thing is for you to net the amount you want. As long as I can net you that amount, that will matter to you, wouldn't it?
What you just said about before, then why aren't you interviewing those agents again? There's a reason I'm here.
Right. Right, I got pushback from from a buyer fee that I charge the other day, just by the way, from an investor who's never met us, who's international. He goes, well, I'm used to paying $2.99. I said, well, you've never worked with agents like us before. And I know that sounds so egotistical, but I was like, come on.
What do you mean $2.99?
You know how the office charge, there's a $1.99
Oh.
office charge fee. So I charge significantly more, which I charge, look at Maria's face.
Do you really?
Yeah, I sure do,
Why?
because I'm worth it.
Yeah, but you don't get that fee.
Yes, I do.
Office gets a fee.
Yes, I do. The office gets $1.99 always, and I get any more than that.
Oh.
And you can charge anything you want. Anything you can get out of the consumer, you can charge anything you want. I charge $7.95 for $7.50, $7.95 for buyers and $8.95 for sellers.
What do you mean?
And they pay you?
They sure do. They sure do.
This is upfront cost.
No, this is not an upfront cost. If you speak to John Murchison, who I adore in this brokerage, John Murchison charges an upfront fee for his buyers. That's non-refundable. I believe he charges $500, but we have to double check with him on that. I didn't get that straight from the source. So, and that's to cover his time and his gas. If they don't buy, he still, at least it's not out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I just mentioned that, doing buyers, I do charge $7.50
Oh,
for
good for you.
buyers premium,
Yeah.
especially if it's under a
Yes,
certain amount.
yes.
You know,
Because the commission for $1,000,
commission, yeah.
$1,500. I mean,
If
yeah.
the commission is $1,500 flat, I'm definitely gonna add at least $7.50 or.
Friends.
Yes, for, my time.
Yes.
Is it hard to get them to sign
No,
that?
No, it's in the
No.
listing agreement, it's in the buyer agreement, and I tell them straight up front.
Tell them upfront.
Yeah, there are
Is it
closing
because half the
costs.
time they don't know that any better, that's not usually.
No.
It is usual,
It-
because that's
it
what we
is
charge.
usual.
Can you change it
I
in
never-
No,
purchase agreement?
yes, it's changed, it's already changed. I haven't changed it in my agreements.
Oh, you
And we
have
have
it
ones
already.
already in the system, like up to $4.99.
You don't cross it out, yeah.
Yeah, it's already in like
Yeah.
dollar.
I used to
It is,
charge
yeah.
for it. I charged $4.99 for a long time.
Yeah, but the $4.99 is already in dollar to consumer. I use it. I've
Yeah,
never
good for
seen that
you.
one.
Yeah.
I actually just emailed it because I wanted to update it.
Right.
I emailed Jessica.
Oh, yeah. You should, every single person should charge for their services, it's ridiculous. You work so hard and you drive everywhere and you love your clients. And you deserve to be paid.
Don't think about it, the buyer's
buying
don't
agent
even
don't
pay to
see
treat you
bad.
bad.
Exactly.
Cause I'm straight up thinking about gas all the time.
Yeah, for sure, oh my gosh, what gas costs for sure. Okay, anyway, we were on commission objections, so that is an objection. Do you, Tracy, do you get the objection on the fee?
Yes, I have.
And what do you say in reverse? Back. Say, I'm not paying that fee.
The one lady, she said.
Wait, here, I'm gonna say it to you and you practice.
Okay,
Okay, Tracy. $7.50 to work with you, what?
yes, because it's for my time and my services and my gas for running around to the houses.
Well, don't
You
you
don't
get paid
pay-
commission though?
Yes, the seller's pay commission, you don't. So this is my fee to you as being your buyer's agent.
Do I have to pay that upfront?
No, you pay it at closing.
Is that what you mean by closing costs?
Yes, it will be in your closing costs.
That's it, done.
Oh, so it goes in the closing cost,
Yes.
so, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody, you put that in the escrow letter then, the
Yes.
title?
Yes.
And then the
Sorry,
title
yes.
says,
It's a buyer's agreement.
And by the way, just so you know, everybody knows, because I just went through this, it is subject to cap. So until you're capped, any fees that you collect will also go towards your cap, but once your cap is paid off, then obviously it's all yours. So that's just, and I mean,
So it,
you know, who was just about to ask them,
yeah,
sorry?
it goes toward your.
In other words, so whatever the percentage they break out per transaction, we'll break out a percentage of our buyer's agent fee. Once they're capped, we keep 100% of our buyer's agent fee.
I figured 300 and they're.
Just say to them, there's a whole bunch of closing costs, including $7.95 fee in my brokerage.
You just make it part of the closing
Oh,
costs.
yeah. But I'm actually a little embarrassed because now I can't remember, I think mine might be $7.52. I think $7.95, like I'm like, ooh, I think it might be $7.50 and $8.95.
I just had one of your buyers on my list.
Was
And I
this-
saw it on there and I was like, oh. I was like,
Yeah, no, I mean,
it helps like support your, like your back end and your admin.
yeah,
That's like.
yeah, that's exactly,
That's like what it is.
that's
Yeah.
exactly, it allows me to bonus the people who work for me in a way that is commensurate with the amount of work that they do.
Yeah.
Not just that, your fees that you have as a realtor. You think about the MLS, the fees you gotta pay for MLS, you gotta pay your dues.
Everything, yeah,
Everything.
That's an
So it's
expensive
like- it's an
business.
expensive business, so, you know.
very, very expensive business.
Yeah, and they call you anytime, you get a text in the middle of the night.
Anytime you wanna practice script objections, just call me and I'll just pretend that we were just in the middle of a conversation about you know, pricing, the commission and all of that stuff. Does anybody have questions? Speaking of which, I want to talk for 1 minute about, I said that word marketing and what marketing means and what marketing does for your sellers and really what it does for you. The key component here is that every single listing should be somehow 2 or 3 pieces of business, right? Every listing should find a buyer, you should find a buyer from every single listing, another listing, and sell that listing. Just like when you walk into the grocery store, if there isn't product on the shelf, there's no one to buy. So it creates, the listing creates a lot of like interest and stuff for you. There's this page 82, 14-step marketing plan that is not, you know, I'll tell you, well, these materials are a little bit on the older side. I can tell you how I handle listings. I'm not currently using postcards. I have postcarded in the past, but I definitely think that open houses are so powerful. So powerful. I've never sold a house at an open house, ever, but I have met so many people. And people come to the same people come to the open houses, you know, all the time. And they're like, oh, I know you. And you're like, yeah, I know you too. And so I definitely love that. I also love social media. I definitely use social media to market my listings. Love our MLS, love reverse prospecting in the MLS to will not get you a client, but help find other agents who have clients that would be a match for your listing. And then ultimately just being the one with the signage is always a good bet. Tell me what kind of marketing questions you have about listings.
What do you use for photography?
So I love, not love like I love my husband, but like love Mark Kubicina of Red Dog Real Estate Photography. He is very expensive, I think, for a certain price point of listings. So I always used him. Then I found somebody else that unfortunately is really a lot of money, frankly, but he's not quite as good. So I sort of divided it up. I mean, I want my lower price listings to look really good, but I think they look pretty darn good with the other guy whose name I can give you, who's in my phone. And Mark Kubicina of Red Dog is like unparalleled for how his photos turn out.
And you pay for that?
I sure do. Yeah. And that's a big line item for me. Cause he's like at $185 a pop, unless it's a massive house, and that's even more. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money.
That's another reason you can charge that fee, and you can tell your
That's right.
clientele is for photography, is for marketing, that's why you have.
Yes.
et cetera.
Yes, agreed. What else? About marketing, like getting the word out about your listing. Seems easy, seems hard, seems straightforward.
So you don't do postcards? Do you do just sold?
I was convinced erroneously to drop the postcards I was doing years ago, probably literally like 8 years ago or something like that. And I think that was a mistake then, but I didn't pick it back up. Because I feel that postcards is the kind of thing you have to hit all the time. So the only postcards I'm doing right now, I'm doing a monthly postcard to my own personal like database past clients and that. And I plan on moving shortly, and I plan to do like just a 100 home farm right around where I'm moving. But I'm not postcarding like a just listed, just sold at this moment. But I'm not saying, I think they're great if they do the right thing, especially if they have a QR code on them that leads them to your website so that they can find their home value. That's, I think, the only thing that really matters to people is what their house is worth.
Marketing, open houses. There's open houses to the public. You
Yes.
said you haven't sold from, but it's a great
I think they're
vehicle for
important.
meeting people.
Yes.
Other type of open house for real estate agents, which since COVID, I don't know if it's as big a deal on Tuesdays as it used to be. Feeling about that, feeling about whether you do them at lunchtime or after work time.
You know, we all used to love the good open house brokers tour thing, but that was a really like so me and Davida could like hop in the car and go driving around together and like have little nibbles at people's open houses. That does not bring me money, does not bring me a new listing, and does not bring me anything other than really good relations with my colleagues, which I love because I love good relations with my colleagues, but it does not drive my listing business forward. That's the truth.
Okay, you don't think there's even any value to have other agents see your house with hope that it's a way to jumpstart.
Does everybody
getting
here have
appointments
access to the MLS? Just checking. Yeah, okay, yeah. Now, I think it's dumb not to go tour houses. Frankly, you should go tour as many houses as you can. You gotta get in houses, and you gotta know them. And right, when you go in some other community and you're like, oh, this is exactly like. I mean, you guys, there's like this joke on my team that they don't really let me outside of Beechwood, which is not really true, but it's kind of true. And when I go like to Highland Heights or something like that, I'm like, you can get so much house for your money here. This is crazy. Like, well, the most overpriced neighborhood in Cleveland. But, you know, so it's good to know houses. So that's like the preach, go know houses. But does it do anything for your listing or for you?
It's not income producing.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is anymore.
For my open houses, for one I just had, I personally invited the neighbors for
Oh,
like an
that's
hour
great.
before, and they were super excited to come by, and even after my clients, were just like, oh my god, my neighbors, you're like a celebrity because it's so like the traffic that came in for the open house and the
Yes.
showings were
So fun,
much
right?
that they had been watching it. So when I came over, I invited them for the open house because it went live on Friday. So they had all the showings, like we probably had like 30 showings and 50 people came to the open house. So they were very excited to come in and see it, and we're like thankful that I personally invited them to come before I opened it up for them.
I love that. And the dialogue is Michael, right? Yeah. Michael, I'm Shoshana.
Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you. You know, people come to open houses for really one of two reasons. They're either looking to buy a house or to sell a house. Which category do you fit in?
So,
So, okay, great. I'll be over right after. But, you know, I'm saying like really just such an easy, such an easy way to meet people. I mean, you know, to talk about real estate because they're there to talk about houses, right? And even if they say the dreaded just looking, you're like, that's fake. You're like, well, you know, you came for some reason, because often they want to get pricing on their home. So one other little thing, who here is collecting reviews on some site? Good. Tell me it's Google and not Zillow. But if it is Zillow, we can still be friends. But collect your reviews on Google, because Google, as far as I know, it's not going anywhere. And Google's not trying to sell your reviews back to you, you know, at least yet. Zillow is really not collectively our friend. Collect your Google reviews and do it the minute the client is happy with something. Don't wait till the end. When it's moving day and it's closing day, nobody cares about you. Nobody cares if you did a good job. Nobody even remembers your name for those 5 minutes. They literally, I begged people for reviews that I worked so hard for. Yesterday, I got through a removal of contingencies. The minute I was done, I texted my link to the buyers and the sellers, and I got reviews like within 10 minutes.
Is there a cost to that?
No, it's free. No, it's totally free. Totally free.
And do you do an open house on every listing?
Well, you know, that's a great question. I mean, I guess I would say probably not, but should be. I mean, I have almost, I'm trying to think if there's a house I didn't do an open, that's what I'm just trying to remember. I mean, maybe if I really thought that it was, I don't know, like I didn't want to hang out at that vacant house alone on a Sunday. You know, maybe I wouldn't do it, but
I would say ask your sellers to make sure it's okay, because sometimes like we've seen with higher price listings, they don't want open
Yes,
houses
I
because they
agree.
don't want the foot traffic.
Yep.
So just make sure you ask, and usually they're okay with it, but if they're not, then you know.
And I just asked because I always kind of thought that they were not useful, like you just get a lot of nosy neighbors.
I mean, I'll tell
As
you.
a person that, not as an agent, I'm speaking of someone that.
But remember, we love
selling
nosy
my
neighbors.
house.
Yeah.
Remember, we love nosy
Yeah,
neighbors, because
and
they're
I'm
gonna
thinking,
sell.
I gotta switch my mind
You want to meet
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then use it as content too, you know what I mean, like even if it's an investment property, you should be going in, you know what I mean, get you some content and post that, you know.
That's true too.
I post that at the time of listening, but I don't do open houses on my.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
You
like,
you don't want to do it because if it's in like an underserved community or whatnot, there's barriers there, then you'll come back and the hot water tank won't be there.
Ugh.
Or the furniture.
You gotta be
It's not
judgmental.
gonna be.
Right. Let's not.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll throw out as we wrap, and I'm just, oh, sorry,
Do you host your open house, or do you have someone
so
actually?
I really will tell you that I probably spent 10 years hosting open houses, even doing, I don't work on Saturdays, just, by the way, I just throw out for everybody here, you don't have to work 24 hours a day. You don't. So 3 of us in this room, actually from Friday night, shut down and don't turn back on until an hour after sundown on Saturday night. It's very, very interesting just to kind of take that day off of work. And to that end, I did 2 open houses every Sunday. So finally, and I only took the Saturday piece because you could do open houses on Saturdays if you weren't us. But Kobe finally was like, Mom, it's time to take a break. You could let somebody else do the open houses. So I am currently not doing open houses on Sundays. And I'm giving them to my team agents who have the opportunity then to meet people.
and how long did you stop doing open houses?
7 years maybe, 5 years. Are you still doing open houses? Is that why you?
No, I don't. Trace your open house. And what we do is, we're asking a loan officer partner who
Oh,
sells his
nice.
business to
Yeah.
sit in an open house with them.
That's really great. I love when a lender does. At least you have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
You have your lawn chair in your car for the vacant home.
Yes, I did one last week and a buyer came in with no realtor or loan officer.
Yeah. So
We're like, you're like, I love you.
Are you telling your clients up front that you won't be working on Saturdays, so they know you're managing their expectations, they can't
100%.
reach you.
100%. I see, you wanna know the good news and the bad news about working with me? And they're like, okay, like the bad news is I don't work on Saturdays at all, ever, 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 including Friday night. Just by the way, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, well, that's different. I'm like, but you get me every 6 days a week, and the rest of my team will back me up if you need anything at all. Or the brokerage, if you don't, if you say like, I'm gonna be in Timbuktu next week, that's okay. We have all of us, we will all help each other if something comes up. So I think that's a really great thing. As we close, I want to say two things. First of all, thank you so much, everybody, for playing all in today. I want you to grab your phone, which is dangerous with real estate agents, and please go to this QR code right this second, leave a review of this class. And as you're leaving a review, I want you to think for 1 second and tell me a couple of takeaways from today. Grab your phone, QR code. Y'all can do it. It's very easy. Remember back in the day when there was an app, you had to have like an app for a QR code. It was like, what is this? Yeah.
Are we starting to?
You can go.
Okay.
Yes, you are starting.
I would say one takeaway is just like, it's okay to charge for your services. Like the buyers, it's okay. We work hard, so why
That's a
shouldn't
great
we get
takeaway.
paid for it?
Yeah, totally true. I'm trying with this QR code business. It's giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
Takeaway, back row, somebody in the back row.
Thank you for doing this class. I really appreciate just everyone here at Keller, because everyone is so informative, and it makes me feel good being a new agent coming in. I can ask anyone I see a question, and everyone is just so eager
Isn't that
to
the
help.
best?
Yeah, so it makes me feel really comfortable being here.
Can I tell you a crazy story? When I first started, my entire contact management system before Command or anything like that was a piece of paper like this. And these are Post-its, right? So I would write down every single person I'd heard of who was considering buying or selling a house. And I stuck it on the back of my door. I was not at this brokerage, obviously, when I tell this story. And this agent walks in and she goes, you should probably hide that list because, somebody might see it and steal your clients. And I'm like, who would steal my clients? It's so weird. And then I was like, oh, she's probably talking about herself. That's like, and I thought, oh my gosh. So that's the coolest thing about being here is that it's such a, nurturing, supportive environment to be able to learn from everybody. A takeaway about listings.
I think from today, the diversity in approach. There's no one way to go about it.
Yes.
So figure it out.
Yes.
You
like
don't-
that.
You don't tour the house first.
I'm telling you, that thing where you're stuck in the closets is like, it's not for me. Yeah. One or two more.
I think it was nice that you went through like the whole process and I'd forgotten, all right, I need to show them like a next sheet. I'd forgotten that my last 3 listings, so like stuff like that.
Don't feel bad. I'm telling you, I'm the queen of forgetting stuff. Use the checklist.
I wrote this down at the beginning, when you were saying to us, why be a listing agent, you said there's so much business to capture out there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what I like about that is it sounds like you're affirming that we live in a world of abundance.
Thank you. We do. And you want to know something? Every single person that gets licensed, there's enough business for all of us. There really is enough business for all of us. That's cool. All right, guys, thank you.